Yo, what's good, relatives? Mike Bravo here, real quick. Just want to touch base. I know the fires are still at the forefront of the news, understandably, but just here to kind of drop some reminders. One of them is to, again, just make sure you do your due diligence with checking information that you're getting. Social media is notorious right now, like for so much misinformation and conspiracy theories, right? Looters, Hollywood sign burned allegedly, right? Um, and I admit too, like some of the stuff that friends have been sending me, some of it's if I didn't know any better, if I didn't have even a basic knowledge of politics or on these topics that are being brought up, um, I would fall for these conspiracy narratives too. But um, I'll get to that later. But if there's any conspiracy, it's just right wingers trying to subvert any leftist stances and policies and strongholds that we have in LA or in California. If there's any conspiracy at all, right? Church, I see that a lot of people tend to. It makes you fodder for falling into right wing narratives, right? Like these calls for removing Karen Bass as mayor, whatever. Again, even though she's whack and she's a servant of white supremacy and police lobby and all that stuff too. It'd be much worse under Republican rule or Republican leadership. So that wouldn't matter too much, because at the end of the day, all those people, the majority of people in council, they're all servants of white supremacy and capitalism, which is the core of the problem. That promotes inequity and environmental injustice, right? Environmental disparities and all that. And just a quick reminder to all my brown folks, my native folks out there, we're always under the thumb of some degree of oppression, right? So be mindful that because there's a lot of news narratives blaming natives for any alleged water droughts or lack of water resources, right? Because of the fish and the ecosystems that we're protecting, as well as Biden administration um, issuing mass deportation raids across California and across Los Angeles, right? Which I thought was a sanctuary state, but apparently not. Um, so, not to take your eyes off of that injustice as well. Also, to be mindful of all the animal relatives that are displaced as well, to all their habitats. They're moving into the city. Who knows where they're going, but either way, their home is destroyed as well. The birds, I mean, everything like and now all that affects the ecosystem, right? Going back to the circle teaching that I mentioned. If not, you can check out my IG, the circle teaching, right? Basically, that we're all connected and everything that happens to one, any imbalance in one sector affects the other one, right? And again, this is all the product of capitalism culture, which is to say white supremacy culture, culture of greed, culture of exalting certain people and values over other people, especially when it's by people who are occupiers and colonizers. So, but I won't go too much into that. But again, just a reminder that we're all connected, and everything that happens in one section happens, it affects everyone else. So even though like some people think that these fires might not affect them because they're a distance away, believe me, it affects a whole system. You might not see it now in the next couple of days, but trust you're going to see it down the line if we don't take address and take the necessary reparations for the lands and for the space and for the element relatives, for the animals, etc. And also, just I wanted to point out too how to be mindful of how the narrative changes when certain people are involved, right? So, like for instance, um, a lot of the people being displaced, they're now in house. They're technically homeless now, right? So normally, a lot of times, and I wouldn't even in the media in general, because most of the media serves right wing narratives, right? There really is not too much of a left presence, a true progressive left presence in the media unless it's independent. But anyways, there's a lot of disparaging of homelessness, a lot of associations with crime, whatever, because poverty is associated with crime, so there's no denying that part. But a lot of this dehumanization and lack of um, understanding the root dynamics and backgrounds that create the homelessness, whether it's on an individual basis or collective basis, right? But now that you have these folks who are being displaced in Palisades and Malibu and what have you, right? They come from a more affluent Anglo background for the most part, and so notice how quickly the narrative shifts, right? How the compassion, the open mindedness is going to be exercised, right? Tracy Park, our West Side council person for LAC, she's a great example of this, right? She's quick to throw the criminal label at people facing poverty issues or whatever, but uh, she's gonna switch up her tune when it comes to these folks, right? Again, because the money's there, they're white folks for the most part, and um, unfortunately, not all of us have the privilege of having our backstory heard or um, having our background story or narrative highlighted for people to feel compassion for us, right? Or people who are unhoused or people who are incarcerated, etc. Right? So just kind of watch the narrative on that too, and encourage others who might be exhibiting that type of narrative behavior as well. Correct them too. Hey, compassion for everybody, understanding for everybody. Let's do the research and lift up everyone's backstory, right? So we have some more compassion, understanding of why things are the way they are and why people are where they're at, regardless of they might have committed a crime or what have you. So no, just being mindful of that as well. Also, I mentioned don't get too involved. Don't get too worked up with a lot of these arsonist narratives. There's always some kind of weirdo out there doing something, right? But climate change is real. Colonizer disregard for indigenous advisory, territorial advisory is as arrogant as ever. A lot of those territories, you can check it. Check it. Natives have been telling folks that they shouldn't build mass settlements there for years since they got here, right? Since colonizers arrived over here, they've been saying that those areas. They've always been prone to fires, right? And droughts are real, as well as capitalist disregard for shortcutting and taking choosing profits over public safety. You know, just another trait of capitalist culture, right? So none of this needs conspiracy. You don't need conspiracies to figure out that this was going to happen anyway, right? But people want to point fingers at Karen Bass. They want to point fingers at whatever brown or homeless person or black person or whatever, and point to them as the culprit of this. But the culprit is it's privilege, it's capitalism, it's apathy on the part of the public. Yeah, so just again, just some reminders